There is a lot of colour in my work, but as you can see, there is also a strong architectural element. I probably, if I had tried harder or worked harder at school, I may well have been an architect. I'm one of those artists that are frustrated architects. A lot of architects are frustrated artists.
That they
Not
are.
not many artists are frustrated architects, but I love drawing. And I think one of my favorite subjects as a younger student was actually drawing a picture of my ideal house. I do a floor plan of my ideal house, and so I believe that probably had a bit to do with it. But then another thing that I just realised that probably has sunk in, and this is probably the case with so many artists, their career is a snowball effect. You just keep picking things up, and you notice in time there are all these things that just happen that aren't connected but keep happening. So when I was probably 14 or 15, a friend of our family who designed our house, Donald Spencer, the great architect from Brisbane, actually moved in because he was out of sorts, and he moved into our back granny flat. And
Wow.
he had a practice there. He had his drafting board there, and I used to watch him drawing houses quite beautifully, freely. So that might have led me towards the idea of architecture as a future. But having gone to a terrific school with a great art department, I actually loved the the freedom of expression that an artist had over someone like an architect who gets told what to do sometimes. So the inspiration for the current show is basically, my desire to document a sense of place in my world here in Brisbane, and my connection. We hear it a lot. People talking about place and country and where um, their heart and soul is. And I think I'm a Brisbane original. I've lived here all my life, and grown up looking at these contrasts between the big city in the heart of Brisbane, the big modern buildings, surrounded by these beautiful, um, highly unique Brisbane houses, the little Queensland suburbs, the earlier ones. But then I realised that's a really interesting reflection on that time. But like a tree growing, there's rings around Brisbane of different eras that represent, that time. So different houses in different suburbs reflect that time. And so you go further out into the brick suburbs and tiles, and they too have the same sort of influence on me now. And I think ultimately, I like to personify buildings. And I like to see the buildings as a personality, and each one has its own personality that are kind of guided by the people that live in them. And I really think that's a great way of picking up the essence of a city. So if you live in Sydney, and I have been in Sydney many times, or Melbourne in Australia, you can see this definite distinctive styles, and I love painting the architecture down there. But when you look at all of the subtleties of my work, whether it's a newer building that I paint or an older part of the city, there are, I guess, a couple of standard or unifying forces, which are basically the light of this city, which is quite strong and quite unique. And I love representing that warmness. I just think that's the personality of Brisbane. I think,
Mm.
is being warm.